Hey, what is up, you guys? Welcome back to Scary Movie Girl. My name is Nika, and I'm so excited to be talking to you guys today about Cult of Chuky, something I've been waiting a very long time to do. So before I get into this, let me just say I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do with this video, and I know I'm a little late on the bandwagon. The movie came out last week. I had to take some time to process it once I finally got to see it, just to totally know how I felt so I could know what to tell you guys. So I took a couple days just to think through the plot, think through, the different things that I liked about it, the different things that I didn't, and that kind of helped me see where I wanted to go with this video today. I've decided to just kind of focus on the aspects that I liked for the franchise or how different things made me feel. I'm not doing this as a review. Sometimes with reviews, I just feel like they can harm your perspective of the movie if you listen to a review first and you don't go see it. And I don't want to do that. So I really recommend, if you have not watched it yet, please just go watch it. It's on Netflix. It's available on Google Play as well as, I guess, on DVD. So I think what I'll do is I'll just go bit by bit and tell you guys what I liked about the movie and how I think it works for the franchise. And really just what I enjoyed and how different things made me feel. So I guess that is kind of a review, but I'm honestly, genuinely telling you to go see it. It's worth it. It's ultimately a really good movie. So there's like my review. So let's just get into what I think about the different aspects of it. Okay, so in the very beginning, we come across Andy Barclay. He's on a bad date, blah, 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 blah. And he goes home from the bad date and opens up a safe to reveal that he has the original head of the Chucky doll that we have been seeing since Bride of Chucky, the stitched up Chucky doll head. And I don't know if you guys saw, but at the very end of Curse of Chucky, Andy Barclay shoots that doll in the head, and so this is what he has now. It's kind of a awkward thing that just popped on the screen just now. And honestly, I thought the animatronic was very well done, very cool, and I'm glad they kind of kept the original, even going into what they're going to go through in the movie with him inhabiting the different dolls. I was glad they kept the original. I was also really glad that Andy Barclay was finally able to get his revenge on his destroyed childhood. I mean, if you can't kill Chucky, you might as well keep him, I guess. Friends till the end, right? So he basically just keeps a hold of Chucky and tortures him all the time when he doesn't have anything else to do. We've also found out that Andy Barclay's really into guns and the Second Amendment stuff, I guess. I don't know. That was an interesting aspect. He was arguing on the date about the Second Amendment. All right, so moving on. We end up back at the asylum where Nika has been staying after being, I guess, her trial resulted in her being innocent by reason of insanity. They believe that she has schizophrenia, which is what caused her to commit the murders, at least in her mind. In the doctor's minds, that's what's going on. At this point, she's dealing with shock therapy, but also transferred to a lower security insane asylum where she'll have a lot more freedom. She can kind of do as she pleases, but still, under lock and key, kind of. And we get to see kind of her transition into that. Now, she's among the worst of the worst, and she's the worst. They all think because she's committed a mass murder as opposed to like one murder or arson or whatever else, she's much worse than them. So she's kind of having to deal with all these criminals thinking that she's awful and scary. And, we kind of watch as she deals with that and deals with the fact that she's crazy, or at least thinks she's crazy. And then we get to see her kind of struggle with that again when the Chucky doll shows up and the bodies begin piling. It's a very interesting aspect of, am I actually insane, or is this actually happening? And of course, in an insane asylum, nobody's going to believe you if you say the doll did it. They're all just going to think everybody's crazy. So I think this is a really good setting for this movie. That's something that has always, it's not bothered me about the franchise itself. It just bothers me about the characters. You have so many people that have seen this doll in action, including celebrities, including, a lot of kids, including cops, and nobody believes anybody still, and I think that's crazy of the characters. It's good for the franchise. It makes sense. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to keep going. It just drives me a little crazy about, the people in the movies. I'm just like, oh, look. Okay, so as we move on, we kind of find out some interesting stuff. Now, Nika is actually being kind of sexually abused by her doctor, which I was not expecting to happen. This all happens while she's in a state of hypnosis, and Chucky sort of sees that and, even says to the point, they call me twisted, kind of stating this guy's way worse than me, and to be called worse than Chucky by Chucky, you have to be pretty bad, I would think. And that's an interesting aspect that a lot of the movies bring up about Chucky as a character. Now, even though, Nika's his victim, Andy Barclay's his victim, he kind of, in a weird way, cares for his victims and has their back. I first noticed this in Child's Play 2 when, Andy's teacher is kind of being mean to him. She doesn't believe him that bullying is not his fault, that, the other kids are starting it. She doesn't believe him that he did not write the profanities on his paper. It was actually Chucky. She doesn't believe him, puts him in detention, and Chucky kind of gets her back. I feel like if she had just stayed out of the way and not bothered Andy, she probably would not have died in that movie. But she did. She bothered Andy. Chucky kind of has his back a little bit. This also happens in what happens in Bride of Chucky, but it also happens in Seed of Chucky specifically that I can remember off the top of my head. There's paparazzi following around Jennifer Tilly. Chucky kind of gets them back for getting pictures of them. Granted, they do get pictures of him, but he was already kind of pissed at the paparazzi. Anyway, the point that I'm making is he kind of, in an odd way, cares about his victims and has their back. This is shown at the end of this movie when he kind of kills the doctor. We'll get into that in a little bit. So the thing that kind of actually had me stopping and thinking about how I was going to handle this video was the scene with Madeline and the Chucky doll. Ultimately, it is revealed that she dealt with some kind of postpartum psychosis and smothered her real child, and she kind of again does this over with the Chucky doll and, kind of goes into a fit saying he was crying, I couldn't get him to stop. I actually had to stop the movie and not watch it for a few minutes to see if I could handle that because that scene was very real. I was not expecting this movie to go there. That was extremely dark. And you can't argue that with Curse of Chucky, it got similarly dark when Charles Lee Ray stabs Nika's mother in the stomach, causing Nika's paralysis. But I just was not quite expecting this movie to go there. I was, I didn't think it would. But I do think it's an interesting aspect, and not a lot of outlets talk about this, but it unfortunately is a very real thing that does happen to women suffering with postpartum psychosis. So, for that reason, I think it's good it's getting mentioned, and also I thought it was an interesting aspect for the movie to go. It was an interesting thing to see. Ultimately, one of the Chucky dolls does end up killing her as well, so it's all kind of crazy there. Alright, so when I first heard the term Cult of Chucky, I wasn't sure what to expect, you guys. If you saw my previous video about the theories on what's happening, I personally thought it was going to be other people kind of doing Chucky's bidding for him. So I thought Alice was going to be in one of the dolls. I thought maybe Glenn or Glenda was going to be in one of the dolls or, a separate victim. I wasn't totally sure where they were going to go with the cult thing. And there was a scene where Tiffany calls up Andy Barclay and says something to the effect of like, the cult's coming. And at that point, I think I kind of knew that somehow Chucky had been able to put his soul in multiple dolls, but I still wasn't totally sure. I wasn't totally sure how to take what she was saying. It was really confusing. But by the end, when he explains it to Nika, how he got the spell off of voodooForDummies.com, I was really surprised pleasantly. I didn't think this is where the franchise was going to go. I did not think that was possible in Chucky's voodoo world. But it was really interesting, and I think a really cool place for Chucky to possibly go, because now we have a lot more threat. Now we have a lot more eyes and ears, coming from Chucky. And he's a very sadistic, mean murderer that will toy with you before he actually kills you a lot of the time. I mean, sometimes he'll just kill you and get you out of the way, but... Okay, so before I get into the ending, which I'm excited to talk about, there was one other funny scene, kind of more towards the beginning. Chucky is walking through the hall of the asylum trying to find Nika, and this crazy lady who believes that she is dead comes out and says to Chucky, "Can you see me? Don't be afraid." I absolutely love that scene where Chucky's like, "You're staring at a vintage doll with a scalpel and you're asking me if I'm afraid of you." I just thought that scene was really funny. It brought a lot of his dry humor in without being too much. I think one of the biggest problems with Seed of Chucky was there was just too much humor. They made fun of Hollywood more than had anything to do with horror. And so I think Don Mancini really did a good job of keeping the humor, but kind of getting it out of your face, kind of hiding it beneath the horror. I thought that was really well done. Alright, so the very end of the movie, we have the big reveal that Chucky has figured out how to transfer, I can't use words right now, can transfer his soul into human bodies. And we kind of find that out with the story of Alice, as well as later on with Nika. But we find out that he actually successfully, in the end of curse of Chuky got his soul inside of Alice's body, and he used her to commit some murders for a while, but her body was just not strong enough, and she was subsequently killed. In which I was a little sad that we wouldn't really see her again. But in the same breath, what makes Alice different from Andy Barclay, Andy Barclay, once stuff really started to get bad, knew Chuky was evil, knew Chuky was at fault. Alice, on the other hand, all of this stuff happened. She had to have heard stuff going on from the attic that she was hiding in, still thought Auntie Nika did it. And so she's a little bit more naive. She's not quite as clever, I think, as Andy was in Child's Play. So that's what makes her different. I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit upset because one of the things I always loved about the Chuky movies was Chuky was able to kill any adult he wanted, but when it came to the kids, when it came to Andy Barclay or Kyle, he couldn't do it. And so I always thought that was kind of epic about the kids surrounding Chuky. And then he was kind of, I guess, successful in killing Alice, but really he didn't because he was in her body when she was killed. So I guess technically he hasn't. I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed about that, but I also kind of get it. I see why that character needed to go in that direction. Some people think she's still alive in a Tiffany doll. I personally don't think so. I think they have gotten rid of her character. But, I mean, it is a voodoo world. Maybe she can be brought back from the dead. Who knows? All right, so finally we have the epic ending that I absolutely was not expecting. So it looks like Chuky's about to kill Nika finally, which is kind of what we thought his goal was in the first place, but really he just wanted to inhabit her body so he could blend into the world. And he is successful in doing so, making it so she is no longer paralyzed. She can now walk. And there's this moment, I was kind of talking about it earlier, where Chuky kind of has her back. He kills the doctor that has been harassing her and, forcing her to do stuff in hypnosis, and says this is for Nika. Now, this is the thing about Chuky. He does kind of have the backs of the people that he's after, and he had Nika's back in that moment. Talking about Fiona Dora for a minute, she took on the role of her dad's character, Chuky, so well. I loved her accent change. I loved just the way that she walked around. The laugh was absolutely amazing. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. We kind of have a possible Thelma and Louise situation going on with Tiffany and Nika / Chuky. I just think this franchise could go in a lot of interesting directions with this, but I'm kind of not sure if I should come up with any theories because I was so wrong about this movie. And in a good way, I'm glad that I was surprised. I'm glad that I wasn't expecting any of this, if that makes sense. So that's really most of my thoughts on this movie so far. Ultimately, I thought it was really, really good. I know I said I wouldn't do like a review, but it was good. I really am impressed with where it went, and I was worried that I wouldn't be. When I saw the trailer, I was really worried where they were going to go, and I was worried about the way the dolls looked, but now I get it. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. At the very end, we also have the surprise return of Kyle from Child's Play 2, so I'm really excited to see if they go anywhere else with her. I think, she needs to get Chuky back as well because, she was having a nice life at that foster home and he totally ruined it, so. Okay, you guys, so that's all I have to say on that for right now. What more do you want to hear about this franchise? Please let me know. I would love to divulge more and talk about it. I've been watching it for years. I love discussing it. The purpose of this channel and this video really are so we can discuss how we feel and what's going on. And I would love to do that with you guys. So comment down below what else you want to hear. Maybe I missed something you wanted me to talk about. I would be so happy to do another video. Just let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to keep it spooky, and we'll see you later.